Good morning. Are you all right? First of all, can I thank the chairman and for welcoming us here to this Titanic signature project, which is a symbol of Northern Ireland's progress in recent years. And this is only one of many that have been opened: the Giant's Causeway, the visitor centre there this year, the MAC, and many others. And I hope that continues, because it shows that Northern Ireland is still progressing. And the last time I was in this building, ladies and gentlemen, it was under construction, and I was in steel boots and a yellow hat. And I'm pleased to see such a fantastic turnout that has happened since that time. And I'm also a great pleasure to be here, as this is the first conference under our new leader, Mike Nesbitt. I wish to give you an update of my work as the Ulster Unionist MEP for Northern Ireland, and the issues that the European Union must overcome, and indeed the challenges that lie ahead, and how I am ensuring that Northern Ireland's voice continues to be heard on the European stage. The crisis in Europe continues. The economic turmoil and the uncertainty right across the Eurozone and Europe as a whole, and we are only too well aware how this uncertainty is affecting our economy on a daily basis. The euro was a political project from the very start, ill-conceived, poorly constructed. Even Jacques Delors, one of the best minds of Europe, he said that errors had been made when the euro was created. He said these had made the crisis inevitable. The response was too little, too late, and that European leaders had turned a blind eye to the economic weaknesses of some member states. Although we should be thankful that we remain outside the Eurozone, and we have Gordon Brown to thank for that, believe it or not. I mightn't thank him for an awful lot of other things, but for that we have to thank him. And we retain the power to set our own monetary policy and the interest rates. And had other parties in Northern Ireland been in charge of this, for instance, the Alliance Party, the SDLP, where would we be today? We would be part of the euro. Now, what a disaster that would have been. We now live, ladies and gentlemen, in a global economy. That means it would not be in our interest to see the euro collapse. That would be the worst thing that could happen. We need to trade in a strong eurozone to aid our own economic recovery in the long term. Put simply, when the eurozone sneezes, they used to say when the United States sneezes, we catch the cold. And the UK and Northern Ireland will be hurt further if the single currency fails. The eurozone as a whole is our biggest trading partner. Against that backdrop of the crisis in the eurozone, a range of important negotiations continue in Europe. Irrespective of where you live in the province, these negotiations affect us all, including the Common Agriculture Policy Reform, the Common Fishery Policies Reform, the Cohesion Fund, structural funding, and the biggest of all, the budget, because it doesn't matter what organisation you belong to, what country you're in. If you haven't the money in the kitty to pay, you can't move forward. As a member of the European Parliament's Rural Development Committee and the Agriculture Coordinator for the ECR Group, much of my current work, I have to admit, centres around the reform of the CAP. Why? It's over 40% of the EU budget, and the single farm payment accounts for 52% of the income of our farmers in Northern Ireland. And if our farmers were not getting that 52%, the consumers of Northern Ireland would have to pay, because the farmers could not afford to produce the food at the price without it. And what's a coordinator? A coordinator is a person selected by a group And I am one of 7 people who coordinate the future of the Agriculture Committee's attitude to the future in agriculture. We decide who does the reports, we decide what way it will go and the timings and everything else. And I think a lot of people do not realise, it was a little bit like the time when I was a quester. What's a quester? We're not going into that today. But the coordinator, I've realised in all the time I've been in Europe, I have suddenly discovered what it's like to have power. And at a very important time, and I intend to use that power very wisely. The outcome of this process is important for agriculture, our rural economies and Northern Ireland as a whole, given the significance that the agriculture and the agri-food industry has. And I have to say, the agri-food industry, since the economic crisis happened, has been the one part of our industry, of our society, has created more jobs, more wealth, and has stood against all the other problems that the economic crisis has brought to us. So the outcome will be extremely important. The original proposals were extremely complex in nature and confirm that the Commission, quite frankly, has little appetite for simplifying the CAP, even though they claim that the proposals will reduce red tape and bureaucracy. Their own estimates suggest that the proposed changes will increase administration by some 15%. And given the economic crisis we are in, that in reality is a non-starter. So it is now clear that a deal needs to be reached on the CAP reform in the first half of 2013 under the presidency of the Republic of Ireland, under Mr Coveney, who is the Agriculture Minister, because if we don't get that deal at that time, the next president in is from Lithuania, the one after that is from Greece, and now do you really want that? So that's the time we have got to achieve the deal, but I do not believe we can implement it in 2014 because implementation of European directives is one of the most important things that our Stormont Assembly can do to monitor that we're not over being bureaucratic and imposing red tape on the people, not just in agriculture but in fisheries and right throughout all other areas where European directives have to be controlled and brought about by the local governments. As the Shadow Rapporteur and indeed and ECR Coordinator, I will be involved in the negotiations as they continue, and indeed the visit which the Chairman referred to of Commissioner Challis to Northern Ireland was very welcome, and I was very pleased to welcome him here. But it proved one very important thing. He actually went to Sweden, Finland, Scotland to see George Lyon, and then here to Northern Ireland and across the border to see for Mairead McGuinness. He came to the coordinators and he came to the rapporteur's constituencies, which proves one very important thing. He needs us more than we need him. So I look forward to that. That visit did provide us with the opportunity to showcase Northern Ireland's industry and outline the challenges that faces us directly, and the Commissioner in charge certainly took away, I think, a very important view of Northern Ireland, and we did, and I thank all those who were involved in the process of putting the arguments to him. So the farmers' unions representatives and everybody had the opportunity to put forward their point of view. The reform of the CAP is by no means the only show in town. The other flagship piece of EU legislation, the Common Fisheries Policy, is also undergoing reform. Some of the areas of debate include regionalisation, discards, which Europe has never been able to deal with, securing the multi-annual plans, funding ways of improving our fleets, and introducing new technology throughout the supply chain with a limited pot of funding available. Here too, the outcome of the negotiations will have a lasting impact on the industry, both on and offshore and in the wider economy. But Europe is not about just about the CAP and the fisheries policy. There are many other issues that top of the agenda that need to be dealt with. As if I hadn't enough to do, I have recently been appointed to the coordinator for the ECR group on the new, what they call the CRIM committee, or the new committee looking into organised crime. And I took up that role because it was made clear to me in meetings I had with the PSNI of one of the great problems we have in this. We have many problems in Northern Ireland still, like smuggling, diesel laundering, and believe it or not, this is one of the back doors into the United Kingdom for human trafficking. And this is very important. And it's one of the areas where I certainly was made clear to me by the PSNI, by the Deputy Chief Constable at the time when I met them, that if we could do anything, because the one thing for sure in all of this, in trafficking, in cybercrime, and in smuggling and counterfeit goods, it has increased the cooperation between member states. And this goes way beyond borders, and you do require this cooperation. And I certainly will work hard with the PSNI to discuss the issues that the committee will be examining and how my role can help increase cooperation between the PSNI in Northern Ireland and other law enforcement agencies throughout the European Union. And I have to give credit to the PSNI for the way in which they have been involved with other law enforcement agencies throughout Europe, bringing forward new ideas and indeed learning themselves from ideas of other countries, because what we have got to realise, we are not the wealth of all knowledge here in Northern Ireland. Others have learned how to do things as well. As I said, the budget, of course, is very important. And looking to the future of that EU budget, while ministers have focused their efforts on trying to resolve the situation in the Eurozone, the EU's budget, or the multi-annual financial framework, as they call it, has yet to be agreed. In the past few weeks, the Cypriot presidency has tabled an extraordinary European Council focusing on the budget for November 2023, and this should bring much-needed clarity on a number of areas currently under negotiation, and it will prove to be a crucial meeting if a deal on the MFF, as we know it in Europe, is to be reached by the end of the year. Structural funding will be impacted on through a reallocation of money aimed towards new member states. New rules governing what the funds can or cannot be spent on, and the difficulty, quite frankly, to be stared straight in the eye for Northern Ireland is our share of this is threatened if, as currently planned, Northern Ireland is classified as a more developed region. And that's why I'm working alongside Danny Kennedy and the Executive to continue to draw down more funds and to look at new ways at which we can draw down more funds for overall infrastructure for the province. We have also been working closely with the Commission and the Northern Ireland Executive to lobby for the retention of regional aid in the form of government support to help business attract foreign and direct investment past 2013. In relation to research and innovation funding, the New Horizon 2020 programme is worth $80 billion from 2014 to 2020. All we need is our little part of that. But it provides a significant opportunity for Northern Ireland and provides funding across all policy areas, including agriculture, business, innovation, research, ICT, science, health and the nanotechnologies, to name but a few. However, in various discussions with the EU Research and Innovation Commissioner, it is clear Northern Ireland does not draw down enough funding, especially in the area of research. And this is something I continue to address as I meet with individuals, businesses and organisations right across the province. I feel these massive funding opportunities need to be utilised more, and that we must maximise our drawdown of these funds. I will continue not only to fight for more funds to be made available to the province, but to highlight those opportunities when they arrive. That is why today I am pleased to launch a new funding booklet and introduction to local EU funding opportunities at this conference today. I want now to turn to Piece 4. One of the most significant achievements through my work as an MEP for Northern Ireland was the helping to secure the peace programmes from Piece 1 in 1994 right through to Piece 3 at the moment. Now, as Piece 3 draws to a close, we must acknowledge the huge benefits of that almost $2 billion worth of extra funding has brought to Northern Ireland in helping to improve community relations and capacity building in some of our most divided communities. However, the peace programmes, while seen as vital component to aiding to cement the peace process, were by no means perfect. I'd be the first to admit that. And I feel that, in fact, to a large extent, it has now lost its way and its focus. Even their most ardent supporters would realise that there are improvements that can be made and that the peace programmes did not get everything right. The bureaucratic burden associated with administering any funding, awarded and unnecessary red tape have caused difficulties for countless organisations, and that is why I have been working alongside a range of key stakeholders to remove these obstacles to the best of our ability. And this has been met with much success in terms of common sense simplification, which has allowed those receiving the funds to spend less time on administration and more time on what they were awarded for the funding for in the first place. But as this party knows only too well, there is also much debate around the focus of the peace programme should be, where the money should be targeted, how it should be spent, and who should benefit from the opportunities it presents. And while the UK and the Irish governments have agreed in principle to formally request a Peace 4 programme from the European Union, I am continuing to work to ensure any new peace programme will be additional money coming to Northern Ireland and not top sliced off any future structural funds, as the past Secretary of State and the present Secretary of State stated to me in a letter this week. It is essential that we utilise this potential programme to bring tangible and long-term lasting benefits to those in our society who, in a variety of ways, continue to be left behind, or who need this assistance to build upon the progress already made. With this in mind, I wish to see Peace 4 refocus on what the original programme was intended to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it was never intended to build large-scale monstrosities at the maze. I wanted to focus on cementing community relations. I wanted to tackle the many of the problems that exist in some of our more vulnerable communities. I want to go back to the people, on the ground, working on a daily basis to create a brighter future for their communities. I also want to see it solve the growing issue of educational underachievement within our society, as it has been established as a core reason as to why many parts of our society remain divided and isolated. Breaking these cycles are vital for Northern Ireland to build a genuinely shared, progressive and prosperous future. It is essential that we take the opportunity to shape this potential future programme now, and thus ensure we tackle these problems head on. As such, I would encourage all members to respond to the ongoing consultation from the SEUPP, which is compiling views on what future Peace 4 programme may look like and what areas it will focus upon. As all these negotiations at both a European and local level progress, I will continue to commit myself to working on behalf of this party and the people of Northern Ireland to ensure that best interests are always represented. And that's one thing I will always do, is to work for Northern Ireland PLC, because that is what we go to Europe and that's what you send your European representatives to do. And since the Lisbon Treaty, the European Parliament now enjoys co-decision in the vast majority of policy areas, and this is where the experience that MEPs such as myself have built up and is fully utilised to guide and influence legislation affecting our daily lives. Whether you agree with Europe or not, we are part of it, and therefore we should aim to get the most out of it. We should maximise all available funding opportunities and continue to influence the decisions and policies so that they adequately reflect the needs of Northern Ireland. It is something I have always done and committed to continue to doing. By working alongside my European colleagues, I use my experience and working relationships to ensure that Northern Ireland is not seen as a small, isolated corner of Europe, and that our interests are represented and heard at each stage of the policy-making process. Whether it be in the future of the Common Agriculture Policy, structural funding, passenger rights, mobile phone charges, regulations on the air we breathe, the water we drink or the food we eat, I will ensure Northern Ireland needs are not neglected in any way, and I will continue to provide a strong representation for this province right at the centre of the decision-making in Europe. You will be well aware that I have made it my intention to seek and to put at bay all those who wish to speculate that it is my intention to re-seek the nomination for the Ulster Unionist Party to stand for the next European parliamentary candidate in 2014. I have done much, ladies and gentlemen, but there is still a lot more I have got to do before I'm finished. Thank you.